Hey, welcome back to the stash. Every so often, Marvel will hand the keys back to a writer who's left their mark on Spider-Man in a big way. Sometimes it's just for a short arc, and sometimes it's for a one-shot, but it's always exciting to see what they'll do with the character after years away. In fact, we got something like this not too long ago where JMD Mateus wrote Spider-Man Shadow of the Green Goblin last year. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally really enjoyed that series, not to mention it just highlights the excitement you get when you realize one of your favorite writers from years ago still has it. But this year, that opportunity went to another one of my all-time favorite Spidey writers, J. Michael Straczynski. If you've been following Marvel lately, you might have noticed that they've been letting JMS put together a small collection of one-shot Spider-Man stories. Little standalone tales that aren't tied to the bigger, messier continuity of the modern day, but rather perfectly stand on their own. It's the kind of thing that feels almost rare now, where you can pick up an issue, read it front to back, and have a complete story without having to check a reading order or keep track of a dozen other tie-ins. So going into this, I was pretty optimistic. Straczynski and Romita Jr.'s Spider-Man run is one I've always held close, and after seeing JMD Mateus get his turn to revisit the character last year, I was glad to see JMS getting the same chance. It's like watching a master return to their craft. You can't help but wonder if they still have that same spark that made their work so memorable in the first place, and as it turns out, this issue ended up being just about everything I could want from a one-shot. Before we get into that though, I want to take a quick second to say that here at The Stash we're trying to reach 15,000 subscribers before the end of the month. It's a huge ask, I know, but with your help I also know we can do it, so if you like Spidey or just comic content in general, feel free to stick around and maybe hit that subscribe button. But anyway, with all that being said, this is the return of J. Michael Straczynski, Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 16. So our story begins with a night on the town with Peter and MJ. They got reservations at one of the most prestige restaurants around, and all they want is a nice relaxing evening together. Right off the bat though, it becomes pretty clear that it'll be anything but relaxing. Heroes and villains from all across New York City begin to rush in and sit down in their reserved seating. And it gets worse when Otto Octavius arrives. The two even go outside to make sure no trouble will be caused before promptly returning to their dates like nothing happened. But soon after, Peter's back in the same spot outside, this time talking to a certain Eddie Brock who somehow also got a reservation. Anyway, the dinner commences and the heroes and villains do their best to remain proper and calm. Behind the scenes though, the motive of this gathering is much more sinister. The owners of the restaurant purposefully invited all these colorful characters in hopes for them to bring the entire building down so they can claim insurance money. To them, it's only a matter of time before something kickstarts the big fight. Back with the guest, Peter and MJ share a lovely moment before the chef intentionally tries to spill wine onto Wilson Fisk's nice white suit. Dr. Strange, however, stops the liquid right before contact, which results in the entire restaurant giving a round of applause. Well, all but one. Much to the chef's annoyance, the dinner is going extremely well. In fact, they're all getting along. That is, until Eddie Brock accidentally gets the attention of Mr. Hyde. The two begin to get aggravated, which then causes a chain reaction from the rest in attendance until every powered being there is stuck within a full-on battle. Naturally, it doesn't take long until the heroes win and the restaurant is severely damaged. She-Hulk, though, was well aware of the secret plan thanks to her super hearing and confronts the co-owner who played her cards extremely well. You see, she recorded some conversations and will potentially be able to cut a deal on her behalf. Our story ends though with Peter and Mary Jane sitting upon a rooftop having breakfast as they stare out into the beautiful sunrise. The two converse about the dinner they had. MJ owns up that she was mistaken about her comment before, that all good and bad guys could have a night in peace, but Peter corrects her. She wasn't wrong, for he's seen good guys become bad guys and once in a while the opposite, even if for only a minute. Sometimes, he believes, all they need is a reason to be something or someone other than what they are. It may not have been that moment, but doesn't take away from the fact that for a few hours, everybody set aside the labels and costumes and were just a bunch of people having dinner together. That's not the end of the process, but maybe, hopefully it's a start. Mary Jane asks Peter if he believes that, to which he says, for the moment he does. But he continues, telling MJ he loves this town. She does too. But most importantly, they love each other. Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 16 was a pleasant surprise. Like I said before, it's a part of this thing Marvel and J. Michael Straczynski are doing where basically JMS is getting the chance to tell a few one-shot Spidey stories. So going into this, you could say I was quite optimistic, but as for the issue itself, it's incredibly well-rounded. Each character is extremely well-written, the story is well thought out and engaging, and it's got a pretty heartwarming overarching message. Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 16 wastes no time throwing Peter right into a hilariously chaotic situation. What was meant to be a simple, quiet night out with Mary Jane quickly spirals into a dinner from hell, one where heroes, villains, and everyone in between somehow end up under the same roof. I love seeing how for the most part they all kept it civil, they all treated each other with respect and dignity, and were able to have a pretty nice night out on the town. It's a setup that could have easily turned into a messy cameo overload, but JMS uses the absurdity to his advantage. With it, he brings out each and every character's personality in small but memorable ways, from Thor's larger-than-life confidence to Eddie Brock's tense, almost awkward interactions. Every moment feels like it belongs. Also kind of got some Lego Marvel superhero vibes from this one page too. Not to mention just how well Peter and MJ were written here. It's one thing that JMS can just do in spades, it's right them too. He has a serious gift for it, and once again in this issue, his ability to do so shines right through. It's seriously like he and the characters never missed a beat with how well it's handled. I miss them having stories like this, and I miss them in general, so to have Peter and MJ in this one shot was really nice and welcoming for fans of Peter and MJ. The ending too with them was incredibly sweet. I think it perfectly captures not only what JMS was trying to do, but also why they just work so well as a couple. It's something that I think we all needed, a nice brief moment of our hero and his love staring out into the sunrise. I miss scenes like that. It makes them all feel human and real, and it makes the comics feel real and personal. And the Amazing Spider-Man has kind of been devoid of all that, I guess. I hope these sort of things are here to stay. I doubt it, but I still hope for it. If not though, then I'm just glad that JMS gave us yet another scene to remember, one that just encapsulates these two to perfection. But I must say, I wasn't expecting much when it came to the artwork, but honestly I was left pretty surprised. It's nothing spectacular, but I still think Phil Noto's art captures the energy the story has perfectly. It's very clean, very expressive, and full of little visual beats that make the comedy land while also allowing the personal moments to breathe. Sure, sometimes I thought the art looked off, but besides that, it did the job in most areas, and in others, it was pretty good. Overall, Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 16 is more than just a clever premise or a nostalgic return for a fan-favorite writer. It's a crucial reminder of how much life there still is in these characters when the right storyteller is behind the wheel. J. Michael Straczynski has always had this rare ability to walk the tightrope between spectacle and sincerity. On one page you're grinning at a room full of heroes and villains trying to share a meal without tearing the place apart, and on the next you're hit with a moment of quiet honesty that reminds you why these characters have lasted for over 60 years. It's a balance that feels increasingly rare in modern superhero comics, where the big moments often drown out the personal ones. This comic never loses sight of the fact that beneath the mask, Peter Parker is still just a regular guy, juggling relationships, navigating uncomfortable situations, and somehow stumbling into the kind of absurd trouble only he could find himself in on what should have been an ordinary night out. It embraces the ridiculousness of the Marvel Universe without ever making it feel cheap or like a throwaway. Even the smallest background beats, a glance across the table, a muttered aside, or an unlikely show of respect between sworn enemies. They feel like they belong here, in a shared world with decades of history. And maybe that's what I appreciated the most. It's not just that JMS wrote a fun comic or that Phil Noto's art brought warmth and personality to every scene. It's that this book reminded me of how full the Marvel Universe can feel when it leads into its own history and heart. It didn't need a universe-shattering event or some shocking death to get me invested. All it needed was good writing, genuine character work, and a willingness to slow down long enough for the quieter moments to matter. If this one-shot ends up being a one-off blip in Marvel's publishing schedule, I'll still be glad it exists, because for 40 pages, it gave me exactly what I want from a Spider-Man comic: heart, humor, and humanity. And in an era where it's so easy for superhero books to feel like they're rushing to the next big twist, Spider-Man vs. the Sinister 16 stands out by doing the opposite. It lets us enjoy a single, strange, wonderful night in Peter Parker's life. It's the kind of story you close with a smile, knowing you'll revisit it again years from now and still feel that same spark all over again. Spider-Man.